Welcome back, everyone, to the Harbor. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy. I'm with Casher and Scott, like always, chilling, booling, cooling. Today we're talking about one of my favorite films of all time, one of my top five of the 2010s. This movie changed my life. Good time, baby. Safdie Bros, 2017.
Wow. So this movie, I knew you loved this movie, and I love this movie, but you said it changed your life.
It's just one of those films that comes around and it just inspires the shit out of you to make art, you know? And I was also there's a couple of films that come around occasionally, and one of us will be like the OG kind of hipster for it. Not like a hipster, but just like you happen to watch this as it came out and no one knows about it yet. And that was me. And I just happened to see it on a whim in theaters. I went to the theater like I usually would after work, and I went to see Ingrid Goes West, that Aubrey Plaza film. And I was like, I can make this a double feature if I want. I guess I'll see how I feel afterwards. What else is out? Oh, this looks like it's getting good reviews. I don't know anything about it, but whoa, Robert Pattinson in this dramatic role. Okay, that's weird. Uh, and then I watched that movie right after Ingrid Goes West. I forgot all about Ingrid Goes West. And that's not to say Ingrid Goes West is bad. It's a decent film, but like
I like that movie.
it's just funny. It's like that was the movie I went to see it, and then Good Time just blew everything out of the water, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
I think that's a great double feature, though.
Yeah, it was
I like both
interesting.
those movies. They both have a griminess to them, although Good Time way more.
Yeah,
And they kind of represent the griminess of different coasts. That's interesting
it was
because
like
you should have done it reverse order, but you
it
didn't
didn't
know.
last long. It only lasted in theaters for like a week, so I was trying to rally everyone, and be like, "Go see this if you can,"
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. And I tried to spread the word as much as I could, and then I showed it to like Sumner, and I showed it. I made Cody watch it. I just did.
You
I went
know,
crazy.
you tried to spread it out to as many people as possible, but you weren't quite as successful as Pete Davidson,
Yeah, dude,
who,
that guy's a fucking Kino king.
yeah, the guy goes on fucking all the talk shows, and instead of just promoting his own movie, he goes, "Yeah, I just want to show some clips from Good Time."
That is the coolest shit I've ever seen.
So funny.
Like, well, I didn't have a solid opinion on Pete Davidson until I saw that scene or that clip from whatever, you know.
Fallon or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
whatever. I was like, this guy gets me, dude. I would have done the same thing if I was in
No,
his
Pete's a
shoes.
bro. I'm pro
Yeah,
Pete.
that
I
movie
get being
fucking
annoyed with
rules.
his whole media persona. I get annoyed with it.
What persona are you talking about? He has no persona.
Is that your Pete Davidson?
I don't know, dude. Fuck Pete Davidson.
Okay. The this is also the movie that shot Robert Pattinson into the patrician like
Into
sort
the
of.
cowl?
Yeah, like everyone was like, holy shit, this guy is great.
Well, and no, I thought that immediately too. I saw this in theaters too, so I can be OG.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I saw this in theaters.
Fuck yeah.
With a buddy of mine, and I don't know if anybody else was. This is when I was living out of state when it came out, 2017. So no, I saw this. I might have been under your recommendation or not. I think it might have been just me and him going to a movie because he's Kino, and I do think you have to contextualize this. Now it's well known that Patman exists. We know he can play a more serious role.
Well, yeah, this was like right off the heels of a couple of other indie films he did too. I don't know if you guys saw The Rover, which is like what made me realize he was like, okay, this guy could.
So I knew he was in Cosmopolis in 2012, but I never saw it. I didn't know if it was just like some weird fluke experimental thing.
Yeah, there's a
And
movie called The Rover that was made in Australia, and it's like Robert Pattinson and Guy Pearce. And it's like a dystopian post, very similar Mad Maxy vibes.
But you know
He was
what?
also in 2011 he was also in Water for Elephants.
Oh yeah, I never saw that movie.
So
But
we knew
actually, it was I knew he could act outside of Twilight pretty well. I didn't know it would be on this magnitude because I just now remember this is an underrated fucking movie. Lost City of Z from 2016. He's in that movie, and it's not like a major role, but it's significant. And I was like, oh yeah, that guy did a good job. But this is like a whole nother force, tour de force, if you will, or whatever. This is a gnarly role, and he just slips into it. And his accent's actually good. It's not annoying, because a lot of British American accents, you can hear them slip in and out of their accents. They're not as good as they think they are. I feel like. I'm not saying I could do a great British accent.
Fuck
but,
you,
yeah,
Brits.
are Americans any better at doing British accents?
Sometimes
they are. At least we're number one at one thing.
Yeah, so this was definitely my first Safdie, and this is really what took them up a notch and got them the money to make Uncut Gems, because
for sure.
Thankfully, this has grown over the years. It hasn't had the intention of Uncut Gems, because, well, Uncut Gems was Adam Sandler vehicle unlike any other, and it had The Weeknd in it, and it just had a lot of attention. And what's that chick's name? Uncut Gems.
I can't remember her fucking name.
Yeah,
the love interest. I don't remember.
Yeah, she had her day in the meme, son.
Yeah, fucking. It's even got like
Garnett.
a Dina Menzel's in it.
We gotta say Kevin Garnett if we didn't.
Oh yeah, Kevin Garnett, of course. Yeah,
playing himself. Do you prefer, before we get even more into Good Time, do you prefer Good Time or?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I think Uncut Gems is an awesome movie, but this just hits everything for me. This movie is, to me, when I first saw it, it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, in just very different, like, not in like crazy ways, but just
it had a definitive style that it obviously had its influences, but it was able to cobble it into something new and interesting in 2017, when I feel like, I don't know, it's a little pre-COVID, but theaters are still really hurting from like the Marvelization of cinema, and this came out at an awkward, weird time.
No,
but also, it was a breath of fresh air at the time as well.
Also, Benny Safdie plays a mentally disabled person. I'd say I was thoroughly convinced that he was mentally disabled
before you knew who he was.
Yeah,
that's funny. I assumed it was an actor, but I didn't know who he was.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man, this guy plays.
What did the Safdie brothers do before this?
What's that movie called? Heaven Knows, or I can't remember what it's called. They've done a few. Daddy Longlegs, I think, was one. I can't remember. I don't have it pulled up, but
yeah, doesn't matter.
Daddy Longlegs, Lenny Cook, and Heaven Knows What.
Oh, Heaven Knows What. Okay,
and then Josh Safdie has done The Pleasure of Being Robbed.
Yeah, Benny Safdie. Yeah,
he's been acting a lot more.
Yeah, he was in Oppenheimer.
Was in Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
he's a major role.
He's also
a Hungarian Judas.
Political fucking. He plays a politician in something. I can't remember what it was.
He played a politician in Licorice Pizza who's running for mayor.
That's what I was thinking.
Based on a real life closeted gay candidate.
This film is very stressful, and it can be too stressful for certain people. And to me, Uncut Gems is even more stressful than this.
They are masters to put down that.
Uncut
There's
Gems.
some places in Uncut Gems where I'm like, okay, maybe this is too much. Maybe I need to pause this for a second.
I watched the first 20-30 minutes, and then I was like, I'm not in the right headspace for this with Uncut Gems, and like went to it the next day. I was like, let me start.
Oh yeah, I took Parker to see it in theaters.
Yeah,
and she was like, what the fuck.
I ate a 50 milligram edible and saw it in theaters.
Oh man, that's stressful.
And yeah, that was not fun.
Also,
it was not fun.
You were talking about 2017 theaters were kind of struggling a little bit, other than just starting to, but also A24 hadn't exploded in the public consciousness completely yet. It was really when Hereditary came out in 2018 that more people started to jump on that bandwagon. And then 2019, we got like Lighthouse, Midsummer, shit like that. That's when it really exploded and became mainstream. So before that, A24 didn't have the same pool. So this was still a little bit relatively unknown. And retroactively, this has become a pretty well-known and well-regarded film. But I'm glad it did. I'm glad it didn't stay unknown. I would have been pissed off. But yeah, this fuck. I'll get it in a second. I have a. I was so obsessed with this film. I was worried when I had seen it too much when we were gonna do this movie, this
How
cast.
many
Oh,
times have you seen this movie?
there's my cat. I don't know, probably 10 or 12 times.
How many times have you seen this movie, Casher?
Like 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've shown this to like 3 different groups of people.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's one of those ones where I'm like, yeah, this movie fucks. Because Adrian really wanted me to watch it forever. I think it was the last out of us 3 to finally watch it. And then after I watched it, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's a nice like hour 45, you know what I mean? It's not like
the 100-minute runtime, I think, is underutilized.
I know.
Although the credits are important in this movie, I think.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I really think this, like, is it 90 minutes or 2 hours? I think, especially for a movie like this, a thriller or an action comedy, not that those exist anymore, 100 minutes is perfect.
Yeah,
I was looking at this A24 thing because I was like, yeah, this is right around the time that A24 was big, but like, and then I'm looking here and I'm forgetting there's movies like The Witch came out in 2016 and it's one of the top grossing films of that year. And
The Witch,
or for them, it's one of their top grossing films.
Well, yeah,
but
I mean,
Ex Machina came out in 2015. Moonlight 2016, which was an Oscar-winning.
Yeah, I know, but like
and
The Witch,
you've got Lady
was definitely
Bird the same year.
The Witch was devoured by horror fanatics, but it wasn't like what launched A24.
Well, I would think Moonlight would.
Well, I know, but like film buffs, I know. I'm just saying, like,
I'm just saying you're wrong.
I remember there being a distinct shift when Hereditary came out, and that made the most money they had ever made before. And like regular people were going to see that movie and getting the shit scared out of them. So who don't normally see those kinds of movies. So that was really cool.
So Hereditary didn't even make as much money as Lady Bird. Just saying.
Yeah, I know. Anyway,
right, you're like, it's the most they ever made before. Really? I'm fucking with it. I'm surprised too, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, this had a distinct style that was very influential to me because it just drags you in real quick. And like I said, it's a stressful movie, and like half this movie is close-up shots of characters talking to each other, and it's just like, yeah, it's like mostly close-up shots, but also I said this in King of Comedy Cast, and that if you're a seasoned director, or you're a talented director, you're gonna want to shoot New York City in your distinct way, and the Safdie brothers definitely do that. It's got a very distinct look, lots of diagonal angles in the film, especially with the city shots or any of the overhead stuff when they're following cars or going through the city. It almost looks like a video game cutscene or something. It's kind of strange. It's definitely unconventional.
Well, a lot of that's, I think, the soundtrack, which is very synth heavy.
Yeah,
we'll get into that. The score on the second viewing was I realized how much more important it is for telling the story.
Oh yeah, which is Oneohtrix Point Never, or you can pronounce it 106 Point Never. It's up to you. He says you can pronounce it either way. I'll grab it in a second, but I have a imported from Japan the cassette release of the Good Time soundtrack. It's like a stripped down cassette version that was only released in Japan. I had it imported like 5 years ago. It's pretty rare, pretty sick. I'm fucking dedicated to this movie.
Right. And the cinematography obviously fits perfectly because it is such a claustrophobic movie. Yeah. This is one of the most claustrophobic movies I've ever seen.
Safdies are masters of panic for me. They
right. And there's a sense of dread and simmering panic throughout the whole movie that's reflected with every decision to reinforce a single tone. Yeah. This is one of the most, and I mean this as a compliment, tonally singular, tonally consistent films I've seen in recent memory, because it was so focused on conveying one emotion so effectively.
There's also like no slow down time in this, like, which adds to the anxiety.
The only pauses in the movie are pauses because he's trying to formulate a plan or a backup plan for the backup plan. You can see it in his face. He's like trying to, you can see the cogs turning a lot. And there's very briefly any downtime.
Well, let's I want to talk about the characters now that we're getting into that. Connie, for instance.
Yes.
I do appreciate more on a rewatch. What a piece of shit he is.
Yeah.
But I already knew that. I do appreciate he is incredibly street smart in many ways and is able to pull himself out of jams, and just not as well as he can, obviously. His bank robbery plan itself was pretty stupid, but his improvisation works well.
I guess he's street smart in the terms of like literally knowing the streets of New York, like where to go and running.
Literally.
But in terms of like, this dude's fucking stupid. Like he's not very smart throughout this whole thing, and I think that's like the point of it.
There's a
But like he's even like, street smarts. In my head would be like not fucking with people that he knows could fuck him up. And throughout this movie, he is doing that, like consistently doing that, even though it's not bettering him or getting his brother Nick out of the hospital.
That is the interesting part.
It's like he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this, and this will help." It's literally the complete opposite for half of this.
Yeah. Let's talk about Nick. In the first scene, he's with a psychiatrist. And we learn that he's special needs, but it remains a little bit ambiguous to what degree he's special needs. And he might be like heavy on the autistic spectrum, or it might be something else. Because I'm not a psychiatrist.
Deaf, isn't he?
I wouldn't. No, he's not.
Does he not have a?
He got some hearing aids.
He has hearing aids. He might be. He might need help.
Partially.
That's deaf.
Okay, well, the thing. Well, he's also able to be put in the same jail as everyone else, so he's not completely mentally.
Well, I mean, a lot of places, unless you're full on like bad, they'll put you in the same jail as everybody else. They really don't give a fuck.
That sucks,
especially in places like that. I mean, jail's supposed to be rehabilitation, but there's documentaries I've seen where they can show you that there's people in there that have the child, like mind of a child.
And he's just in a holding cell right then, right?
Yeah.
He goes to actual jail though, doesn't he?
He does, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But so he's with his psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist is just asking him like if he can understand turns of phrases, like greasy wheel or squeaky wheel gets the grease and shit. And obviously he doesn't really understand what that means. But I feel like this whole opening scene is to show how Nick is a victim of circumstance in his domestic situation. And it's close on him and his psychiatrist the whole time. And then you get this very jarring opening of the door, and your first like wide shot in this scene, or medium shot, is of Connie walking in the door, but then the camera does this very wild zoom up into Connie's face to get him right into the same kind of realm as they are. And I really love that zoom because it's disorienting, but it just immediately brings him into what's going on, and it changes up the dynamic though, and the stress just from his presence starts expanding immediately, and as he escalates the conversation, I think it's brilliant.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly
awesome.
I also there's the use of a single tear on Nick's face, and I keep thinking that it's so hard to read him.
Yeah,
which is maybe why it's so understated by Benny. He just lets the audience do a lot of the work for his own acting in terms of just letting people interpret.
Sure.
Even though he can act more expressively. But there's immediately a barrier built between you and Benny, because it immediately creates this human curiosity about the emotion of why he's crying, but you immediately can't get there because the performance is so understated. And I kind of felt that way more this movie. I was just bouncing against Benny's character, Nick, just trying to get in there, but couldn't.
Yeah, he's clearly got himself guarded in some way, and it's hard to figure out. And also, it's kind of this gray area. Like, his relationship with Connie's strange, because clearly Connie really does truly care about him, but also Connie's a selfish piece of shit. But also Connie can talk to him in special ways to de-escalate him emotionally, and he knows how to hype him up and stuff, but also he uses that to his advantage.
I have a feeling that Connie was the one who probably did a lot of the raising for Nick.
No, I think Connie can get into people's heads and have them believing what he believes. I think he's delusional, and I think he and his grandma have had a falling out, and obviously because Connie's done some shitty shit, and I think that he has manipulated his brother into thinking that his grandma is a fucking piece of shit to him, and I think that he has wedged Nick between his grandmother.
I'm sure there's probably that, but I'm talking about just period throughout growing up. Those two have always been the constant in each other's lives. So of course,
oh yeah, I get that.
The older brother is going to be the one that takes care of him, and whether or not he's manipulating Nick, he was the one who's basically been like, "We're together. We're the only ones that can be together," type thing.
Exactly. It's been a lifelong, not even 100% intentional manipulation, is what you're saying, and the fact that it's the grandmother and not the mother or father that's
that's the big clue that makes me think.
I mean, that's another.
How bad is him? Like Connie and Nick are bad. I wonder how bad their fucking parents are.
I don't know. Maybe they died in a
saving a bunch of kittens from a burning.
I was gonna say like a
9/11.
No, like a Disney death where they're out at sea on some ship and it gets shipwrecked, and now the kids are abandoned. You know, all that shit. That'd be stupid.
That is stupid.
Then we realize, there's a slight naivete to Connie, despite having come up with some of the good like ideas for a bank robbery, like using the realistic masks and the outfits, and obviously just pen and paper to communicate obvious stuff that you wouldn't want to use a traditional mask. The fact that it's like this weird, almost kind of off-putting, like uncanny kind of mask is
movie stuntman mask,
good visual style,
Mission Impossible mask sort of thing. I always wonder where you would get one of those.
Specialty made.
I guess he clearly knows people in the criminal underworld. He has traveled through it to some degree, although I feel like he's not making a lot of alliances.
He seems lower level as fuck.
Yeah,
he is.
He seems like someone who like goes to pick up about an ounce of blow, cuts it with like baby powder, and then sells it on the streets.
Yeah, like very quickly.
Especially when you realize he has later on in the movie, like the amount of drugs that he's got stashed in certain places or left certain places, like the big old bottle of fucking.
Well, that's not
LSD.
his.
That's him. It is Ray's, isn't it? Ray, I think, is lower level too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they both are.
But like slightly higher lower level.
The thing is that he has all this planned out, but then he doesn't have the idea that something would be wrong when she tells him she has to go to the back room to get the rest of the cash. Like, dude, at that point, I'm cutting my losses. I'm getting out of there. Like, I would just take what I could.
Firing.
No, I don't think he had a gun at all. I think he was
but I would.
Okay. And then on top of that, you realize he's bringing his special needs brother to help him rob a bank, which is one of the more vile things I've seen to set a precedent for a character.
I kind of wish that their relationship was more like the classic henchman, like the tall henchman and the short henchman, where he's like, "Shut up, Benny!" Like,
yeah, boss, get him, boss.
Box him on the head.
Bonk.
Yuck.
So I had not heard the term love bombing when I had first seen this movie, and immediately rewatching it, I'm like, oh, that's what the name for this is. Everything that Connie does to Nick, because he's immediately, and I'm sure he means it, but he's also, I don't know how aware he's manipulating. Probably like 80%.
That's the interesting question.
Telling Nick, like, you were so amazing. Look at me. You were so amazing.
Yeah.
How much does he know he's manipulating?
I don't know.
He's just like a football coach, dude. He's just
I think
coach.
I think he might be a little bit more than I'm hoping.
Like, he's a narcissist for sure.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Jesus.
But I mean, so I think he does care somewhat, but I do think he's 75% aware of his manipulation.
Yeah, he does care. But then when the cops chase him and his brother, because his brother can't control himself and takes off, Connie's pretty much like, well, fuck it. I can't go back for him. I'm running. Every man for himself. So I was like, damn, dude.
It is cold. It's kind of realistic. I mean,
what is he gonna do if he gets caught with his brother?
And what's he gonna do?
I don't know.
And and if he went back,
better for him to be like, oh well, fuck, I'll come back and get you. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard situation.
You're too empathetic to be a criminal.
Yeah, I wouldn't take my special needs brother to rob a bank. First of all.
Hey man, scapegoat.
Shut up. Not really. Bonk. I wouldn't. Yeah, dude. I'm a slut for like the way music can amplify a scene, obviously. But when Nick's grabbed by the cops and the Oneohtrix Point Never music like starts intensifying, and then he hits into the prison and the opening credits come on screen, dude, I get chills, dude. It's just pure awesome style.
I was looking at this guy's Wikipedia page, and there's like a sound bit in this, and these headphones are really good. And I just like kind of played it. If you look in the podcast earlier on, I'm like it's just
he's
fucking
talented. Yeah, Oneohtrix Point Never. Me and Cody were listening to him a lot at the SAC back in the day. So when I realized he was doing the soundtrack, that's one of the things that led me to go watch the movie. I was like, damn. Especially because at that time I was knee deep in experimental electronic music, vaporwave, stuff like that. So it ties the whole movie's vibe together. It really does. Also rewatching this, there was one part I did forget. We do get a little lore when Nick is in the he has his phone call and he's calling his grandma and he's like yelling at her, telling her like, oh, we were going to live in the woods and I could do whatever I wanted. I hate you, blah, blah, blah. And
you don't love me. Connie loves me. He said,
yeah, and so you assume since Connie's a master manipulator, he turned his brother on. That clues me in. He turned his brother on his grandma for whatever reason that might be personal to him. And then that's an interesting setup for the next scene, because that's when Connie and his weirdly older, like 20 years above him, like girlfriend, he's like going over to her house to try and get her to do this or that so he can get the money to get his brother out of jail. And the whole time she's talking to him in the car, she's looking at like vacation spots and she's convinced that they're going on a trip like very soon. And his brother is convinced that they're going to live out off grid and shit. So obviously it implies that he told his brother one thing and her the other. Probably just, it might be because he's a pathological liar, or perhaps he thinks because he's such a narcissist that he believes he's capable of doing all of these things that he's promised. It's kind of unclear what he actually believes, but it's fucked up to say, but it reminds me of my dad. My dad's a pathological liar, and I grew up with him making all these crazy promises and shit, and I learned to never just believe it. And it just sucks to see that level of delusion and narcissism, but it's also awesome because the movie's fucking great.
Yeah, this is the most Albanian movie ever made.
No, that's not true.
To say. Oh, okay.
It's the most Greek movie ever made.
Yeah, you got me there. But
same thing, right?
The way he talks to his girlfriend, saying, or I don't know if they're together, but
played by Jennifer Jason Leigh,
which love her. Yeah, I forgot. She was in something I watched recently. I can't remember. She's good though. I don't remember.
She just shows up in things.
Yeah, I know. He says, oh, it's just a few grand, use your mom's credit card, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay. And then he knows that it's 10 grand. He just says, oh, it's a few grand. Don't worry about it. You'll get it back.
Don't worry about it, baby.
So bullshit. And then this movie kind of, to me, alludes to the idea that Connie has this sort of he feels like his existence has some sort of cosmic importance, and that's what I really get from it. And so it makes everything gnarlier to me.
Well, he has that line later to that teenage girl.
Yeah.
He said something about like, you and I are connected through fate and you're going to help me find my destiny. He says something to that effect. And again, it's one of those, how much of it is him believing it and how much of it is him manipulating?
Because on first watch, I thought, well, that's just some shit he's saying to some dumb teenager to get her to buy into what he says. But from his actions and some of the stuff he says to Ray, I really think he thinks he's got some sort of destiny in life, part of his delusion that he can accomplish pretty much anything he puts his mind to. And
he can if he started to believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly. This is a nocturnal movie. I love nocturnal movies where it's pretty much all at night, and it has a very, very slight holiday atmosphere. You do see a couple of Christmas decorations here and there, so you get that. Like,
is this a Christmas movie?
No, it's not. It's not clear. No. I think it's
Christmas isn't essential to the plot. It's a cold movie, is what
it is. A cold movie, and I like that because I've never been up north, but I've always imagined how it would be.
Have
cool.
You not?
No, never.
I've never been up north during the winter, but that's by design.
I've always wanted to go visit as a tourist, go visit NYC during Christmas time, just to go shopping and look around and shit. I think it would be fun. But this is the opposite of that kind of a movie.
Yeah. Right. Unless you're shopping for LSD.
Yeah, they don't go. I think this is after Christmas. I think it's like in that in-between area of the holidays.
That would explain, because the city, and a lot of this I think takes place in Long Island, because they say Nassau.
It's definitely Long Island.
It's Long Island, so
which is way trashier than most people do not like Long Island or Staten Island or any of the islands.
Right. So it does explain why it feels so sleepy. So that's probably a good place to put it on the calendar. Because the city does feel like they're trying to not wake it at every turn.
Yeah.
And it's a city that doesn't sleep though, baby.
And then it escalates. It just keeps escalating. He goes to the hospital to try to break his brother out. And by this point, I'm like gripping my seat in the theater. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This guy doesn't give a shit.
And then also, what's his plan once they do that?
He's making it up as he goes. That's so crazy.
I do appreciate that he did try to break his brother out. Like, I'm like, that's ballsy. He could have gotten away scot-free, essentially.
Like, yeah, he does genuinely care about his brother.
But then how much he has the most cartoonish mistake in like the history of heist films, where he accidentally steals the wrong person from a hospital bed. And I paused it the first time I watched it. I think I texted you, Adrian. I go, what the fuck is this movie?
Yeah, that's the part.
Like, that is so obscenely stupid to me.
It changed the whole movie to me. It's insane. It's like when that happened, I was like, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before.
It's literally the most cartoonish.
No, but just the way it's executed is so insane, because it just amplifies the stress to incredible degrees.
And his incompetence.
I was gonna say,
I'm so dumb that, and I haven't seen this movie since release 6 years ago. That I forgot again that he picked up the wrong guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was just a shock for me. I actually remember Nikki being in this movie more, but I guess those are just the parts I remember.
No, but it's just Ray, who's kind of too.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That's the crazy
once
part.
Ray started talking, I was like, okay, I remember this guy and all this.
There's like you see several wide shots when he's trying to take who he thinks is his brother out of the hospital. It looks like Benny Safdie, but it's not. They got a good casting. They taped him up just the right way to where it just you're not really. It's fast enough to where you're just like, huh, okay.
I'll just pick my nose on this podcast. Sorry, guys.
Okay, well.
Yeah, well, don't call attention to it.
I don't know.
Make it an Easter egg, like the one.
Oh yeah, they do have a moment when he's trying to figure out a plan to get his brother out. I guess they want to humanize him a little bit here and there when they can, just to make it more interesting for his character. When he goes in there and hides, there's that like blind lady, I guess, in the bed or something, and he like gives her apple juice to drink. It's just it's small, but it's there.
But then he drinks some.
Yeah.
Which everything we've spoken about so far, is that indicative of how, or reflective to how he thinks he's helping people, or tricks himself into buying his own bullshit, basically.
Yep.
I don't think that this guy is like
my brother or something, even though he's doing it for selfish reasons.
As long as there's something in it for him.
Yeah, I don't think that this guy is like evil or like sinister or honestly necessarily like the worst person in the world. I think Ray is the worst person than he is. But I do think that when he like in my head, he's probably raised in a way where he had to figure out how to survive, and that might be by manipulating and stealing, and he's got very much like Ed and Eddie's energy, if we're given one. You know what I'm saying? Like scam artist.
No, I don't know, man.
To survive.
I think he walks a path of misery, and anyone that is associated with him suffers. And I think
that was
like it's like an allegorical tale to me in that.
It's like if Llewyn Davis was a criminal.
Well, it's like I don't know. I just feel like he was probably given a short stick, and so now the only way he knows how to live is by doing this kind of shit.
I think he's a shit person. He could
get. I mean, I think you can have a shit childhood and still be a shit person. I think those both.
I just don't think he's necessarily like evil or like.
I wouldn't say evil, but what is
horribly
evil?
Like
delusional?
Or he's definitely like. There's got to be something. He's definitely doing something like to cope himself throughout life. Because it does seem like he does genuinely want to protect his brother, but he does use his brother in the schemes. Because his brother's like Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie, single D. And then Ed, double D is not in this movie.
Yeah, I guess there isn't. I was gonna say maybe Ray's double D, but no.
No, because Ray's a bad person.
Doctor is double D. That's like
Ray is genuinely a bad person. Like this dude had like
Ray's a straight up thug.
Like he's making money off of the druggies and things like that. And
who was your favorite Ed and Eddie of the three?
Ed, single D.
Oh, okay. I'm a double D guy.
Yeah, you would be a double D guy.
I like, he's the rational.
He won't take his fucking hat off. That's not rational.
No, because there's an episode where people are disgusted when they see his head.
Yeah, well,
real for us to imagine.
So yeah,
my favorite episode of Ed and Eddie is whenever Ed thinks that he's a monster and he's chewing up Chunky Puffs and pulling people into his lair and spitting them onto his wall, but it makes it look like this sinister, murderous monster. But it's just him shooting Chunky Puffs on the wall with them. That shit's terrifying.
Okay. So he gets out of the hospital.
Yeah, he
takes goes to the lady's house.
He takes his fake brother out and gets on the bus and uses the only bit. That's crazy that he uses the only slight one line of conversation he had with this lady on the bus to like make an association with her. And so he uses just that little inch that he's given to ask if he can go into her house to use a phone call, which is crazy. I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. But he's got his brother in a wheelchair. So I guess once again, he uses that to his advantage. It's crazy. And the fact that she's just like, yeah, fuck it. Come on in. And then he somehow, by using some sort of sympathy, gets her to let him put his brother in the room until the morning, that because quote unquote his mom's gonna pick him up after work and all that. And then they show that her granddaughter lives there, Crystal, and the smart thing was to immediately have her costume have a big bow in her hair. So you want to be clear, like, hey, this is a young girl. There should be no reason Connie shouldn't understand that this is a young girl. Surely he's not going to do anything.
Yeah, that's part of the movie I remembered very well.
Parker had a visceral reaction to that part. Yeah.
Dumps another level in that. It's really interesting. That's her grandmother, and has some sort of accent, she's from a foreign country, which adds to it. No, the fact that, I mean, we can just jump to it. This chick who she says she's 16. She looks like she could be 14. The
Yeah.
actress is 19.
But
But she
also
looks
she's
like,
smoking weed too, so hopefully she's at least 16.
yeah, well, I don't know. It's New York, baby.
Yeah, when she and her grandma are like talking and arguing, the way Connie looks at them and like stares at the grandma, you get the sense that he's already got these gears turning. He's already making a backup plan for his backup plan. And
He's trying to get a quarter for a jawbreaker.
yeah, the fact that he's got his quote unquote brother back there in the room chilling and shit. And she comes in there and he's got his hair dyed. Anyone who's not a teenager or a child would be like, this is fucking crazy. Get the fuck out of here. That would be that for me, that's immediately like, this is fucked up. You're getting out of here. Something's weird. But she's just like, okay, whatever. And then
She
he's like,
likes it dangerous.
yeah, apparently. That's sucks too, because it's such a common example of the power dynamics between teenage girls and older guys who groom them. And because Parker, she knows her and a lot of other women were groomed by older guys when they were teenagers in high school. And she tells me, about how how they're manipulated and stuff. And so it's not like he's planning at first to go after her. That's not his idea. It's just like he can take advantage of her because she's a stupid 16-year-old girl. And
right. Well, I did rewatching this when they're standing around in the kitchen talking. He immediately starts flirting with her. I mean, do you think that's because he's preparing for the eventuality of taking advantage of her, or do you think he might actually be kind of into this shit?
I don't think he's into it. I think it's just an easy way to win her over so he can use her to do whatever he needs to do.
Yeah, I don't think
just
any
in
of the
case.
Women that are in this movie he was interested in, he's not interested in.
I don't think so.
It's all an ends to a means to an end.
Yeah, it's just like she says she's 16. He's like, well, immediately he's like, oh, you look way older than that. It's like,
Quagmire's, whoa, transvestite, back off. Wait, pre-op or post-op? Pre-op. Whoa, transvestite, back off.
Yeah, that holds up.
Yeah.
The question I have is first of all, it's funny as fuck to me that he immediately is like, I'm gonna get something to eat for my brother, and he starts digging in the fridge and shit. Like, fuck you, dude. But he opens the fridge and there's all these jars of like oils and like separated shit, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is it like can of butter or what is it? Are we supposed
to know?
I don't really know. It's kind of
graphic. A foreign grandmother, it's probably some dank shit.
That's what I was thinking of, some foreign stuff.
Herbal remedies or some bullshit.
Foreign herbal remedies.
Or like pickled fucking pig dick.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? And
just bar S hot dogs that are in there.
Oh, dude, don't get Scott started on bar S.
Hey, I got Nathan's in the fridge right now.
Okay, good. I respect you more now. Okay. This movie kind of makes me miss being a night owl. Eventually, I will return to be a night owl. Right now, I'm on that stupid ass grind. But because I would always be up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I operate better at night. That's when I get shit done. That's when I'm most creative. So I don't know. But because she's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay up all night. I watch movies, I smoke weed. I'm like, yeah, you're just like me for real. No, but he watches Cops, and he's like, I don't want to see them justify this and stuff. And
propaganda.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's definitely not because you're
Cops is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Let's just speak that they go into poor communities and instigate things.
True.
Travel these crimes. So fuck Cops. That's based. Thank you, Con.
I think it's funny though. It's just like, of course, this guy's gonna have something to say while he's being hunted down by the police. It's just kind of humorous to me.
But also, the police probably drove him to do that shit, dude.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, police. A cop probably killed his mom and dad. Is what happened.
Yeah, fucking.
That's what we figured out.
Joe
No,
Chill.
but then he shows up on the news.
Yeah, then he shows him up on the news, which is like, I don't know. His picture that they use is so funny to me. He looks fucked up.
I was waiting for a moment of him to be like, "Ooh, like take this collar for sure."
Yikes! And that anyway, that's when he starts.
Is it hot in here, guys?
Zoinks!
Gotta go.
He distracts her by kissing her, but my question is, and he takes her out of the room and escalates it. My question is, how far was he willing to distract her and escalate this before Ray just happens to wake up and interrupt it?
I think all the way.
Fashion.
I like to think that maybe, I don't know.
There's nothing this guy does in this movie to indicate that he has any sort of moral compass.
Yeah. This guy's moral compass is skewed as fuck.
It points south.
But yeah, like what we were saying earlier, when Ray wakes up and the reveal that it's not his fucking brother is one of the biggest gut punches. Even though at this point I'm already like, okay, this guy's a piece of shit. I don't like him. He's obviously not a good dude, but like I'm still like, oh fuck, man. Like my heart was in my ass. And he's like trying to wrestle him in the fucking bed while the grandparents are trying to sleep and shit. There's some dark humor in there of like situational humor. It's really funny to me.
No, it's almost a comedy of errors. If the tone is
it's like
I describe. People have asked me what this movie's about, and I've described it as like a movie where Robert Pattinson robs a bank with his mentally handicapped brother, and then things just keep getting worse.
Wackier and wackier. Come for the adventure of the century.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a question of tone.
They should have, instead of Robert Pattinson, they should have had Rowan Atkinson do it.
I can see it.
The most fucked up Mr. Bean movie of all time.
Part.
I'd watch it.
It's Connie's fault that Ray escaped from custody, but Ray was going back to jail anyway. And I feel less bad for Ray, way less bad this time. I really kind of paid attention to like just how fucking shitty he is. But like he seems kind of like a lost cause, just like Connie. I don't think there's anything redeemable about Connie.
Connie sees that about Ray, and in the end tells him that.
Yeah,
he's an alcoholic and has no place in society and stuff. And all it is him externalizing everything.
Yeah.
Well, also, he realizes like I might be shitty, but this guy is way shittier than me.
I think they're both shitty.
I think this guy kind of takes it a little bit further than anything.
I think he's just like 20% less competent. Not that Connie's super competent.
Connie's confident in himself big time.
Competent.
Oh, competent. Idiots. Oh, okay. Thanks, buddy.
So the thing that made me realize that Ray is a lot worse is he poured all that LSD down that fucking throat of that guy.
That's one of the most like fucked up, scary things I've ever seen in a movie. Like I gasped. And it's nothing horror related, but that is a scary ass fucking concept.
No, that's like taking 200 tabs of acid at once, right?
That was more
probably like thousands.
That's thousands of hits.
Thousands.
To be the guy, like I've extensively done this kind of shit, and I was right in the middle. Like when I saw this movie back in like 2018, was right in the middle of like my real experimentation with that kind of shit. And I saw that and I gasped. Like, the hardest I think I've ever gasped in a film. And I texted you guys and I was like, that. And then the thing that got me though is whenever Dash wakes up.
Yeah.
He's like speaking unincoherent language.
He can't speak English. Terrifying.
That fucked me up.
Yeah.
Like, I know people who have broken their brain like that. And it took them months to get back to a place. And that was on 40 hits of acid.
Yeah.
The amount of liquid in that is fucking insane. That is if not thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hits.
That's what it's like. Can it even come back from?
No, it can't. You're done. Like people
disgusting.
There's a term in the scene when you're doing liquid acid specifically called puddling, And you're only, when you take liquid acid, you're only supposed to do a very minute drop. Some people, when they're fucked up, who are giving out droplets, will squeeze the whole thing onto your tongue, and it makes a puddle on the side, on the top of your tongue.
Yeah.
And man, you just got to kind of ride the wave on that one. But the amount that dude fucking had down his gullet made my dick fucking shrivel up.
No, it's terrifying. It's
like,
so fucked up.
They call that shit lot justice, where like if someone like does something really fucked up at a show, you tie them to a tree and pour it down their mouth. And like that's been like a big rumor, but I've never seen anything like that in a movie.
I wonder if there was any blowback from the Coca-Cola company, because it's very clearly a Sprite bottle.
Yeah, no, it's literally a Sprite bottle.
And like even on the poster, he's sitting inside of the bottle and shit. I'm like, how did this not get like a lawsuit or something? I don't know.
I don't understand what the laws are. Maybe they're just like, sure, you can use it, and didn't give any stipulations.
Or I don't think they asked for permission. Yeah. But also Ray's backstory is just, it's funny as fuck to me. It's like Trailer Park Boys tier of just like, as soon as you get out of jail, immediately start drinking liquor and shit.
Like selling acid at the arcade.
Yeah, he immediately starts chugging liquor, meets up with Khalif, who gives him Xanax, and then they trip acid, and then they start selling acid at the arcade. It's just a series of events that, I don't know, it's just really darkly humorous. And I like the lighting. I really like
go ahead. Sorry.
The lighting when they're in the arcade and they're playing and everything's vibrant, and that stupid motherfucker comes in to tell him he robbed a Radio Shack. First of all, there's still a Radio Shack in 2016.
Not many. I think that's why they chose Radio Shack. Make it seem like a shitty place.
I'm surprised we haven't seen the guy who played Ray in that quite like as much later on after.
Yeah, he's good. He's funny. Well, not
really enjoy. Well, no, I'm saying I really enjoy his acting. And I don't know if you guys noticed that the guy who plays the security guard Dash is the fucking I am the captain now.
Yeah, for sure.
He's also Dr. Badger in Blade Runner 2049, which
has a very distinct
look. Also in Captain Phillips.
The best movie of all time. No, but it's just like Ray, the guy who plays Ray's performance is just spot on as just that kind of a dude. And really I feel like, you can make a movie without having the proper perspective, but certain films cannot be made, I feel, without the director or the writer having been through a certain experience. And the Safdies are full NYC raised boys through Manhattan and Queens. And I feel like there's no way this film would have had the right feeling and this exact great execution if they didn't live in the city, because it's just so authentic.
I thought you were gonna be like, yeah, they totally lived a life of crime at one point.
No, it's just like
these were rich fucking Manhattan. I'm not gonna say it, but they made their money and they were cultivated to be filmmakers from birth, essentially.
Well,
that's what it's like.
They dealt with a lot of divorce and a lot of crappy shit.
I bet they've gone on a drug deal that's gone wrong.
Who hasn't?
They were raised by rich parents. They went to Columbia and Boston, and maybe if I had rich parents, I'd
whatever, man. They lived in NYC. They were born and raised. They know how the city feels and how it works.
It also feels like a caricature of it too, though.
I don't think
these characters feel very over the top.
Everything's heightened in this movie. I wouldn't say caricature because of the tone, but
famed Israeli-Canadian architect Moshe Safdie is their uncle.
Okay, dude, relax.
Oh, what? What's this? Playwright Oren Safdie is there something?
Okay, this is veering toward the anti-Semitic, so I want to veer it away.
Joke.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, they go into that Adventureland because he left. They figure out through his story that he left that bottle of acid while they were running from people. And so they have to go into this shitty ass dark ride and find this bottle. And then the security tries to take him down and fails. They pour the acid into his mouth. Well, it's actually very distinctly that Ray does it, and that's when you're like, oh well, fuck this guy. He's just as shitty.
But Dash, the security guard, actually is a really good security guard, because I would have called the cops and I wouldn't have confronted those guys.
Hell no, I would have sat in my fucking security room and waited for the cops. Yeah, hell
that's
yeah.
That's what you get for being a hero.
Yeah.
Like it's not your job to kick ass. It's your job to call the cops.
I especially love because this whole time he's just convinced Crystal this or that, like go into White Castle for me, do this or that. And then he drives to the Adventureland and he tells her that he's gonna go take a shit in dude's house. He won't be gone long. You're breaking into an amusement park, you fuck.
Yeah, gotta take a shit real quick. Wait in the car.
Yeah, but it's like I especially love when Crystal's getting confronted by the cops, and then Connie just casually walks up in the security guard uniform, smoking a cigarette, and he just quickly slips into the role and says that he's not, and she says she's not involved, but then they detain her anyway. And of course it's especially gross because she's a kid and he was able to, it's once again his fault that she's in this scenario, even though and that's the thing is like she could have ratted him out like then and there, but I think seeing him in that outfit, I think that legitimately scared her. She was just completely confused. And yeah, so it makes sense that she wouldn't have said anything. I think she saw him and it was like a power move of like, yeah, you don't know shit about me. I don't know. It's interesting.
Something like that. I mean, and then maybe part of her actually did trust him or just didn't want to be a rat because she just didn't want to be, because that's how she was raised or whatever. I feel like eventually they would get some information out of her.
They will, yeah, after the night's over and he's fucking in cuffs.
Yeah, but even if this movie didn't, that's the thing. Even if this movie didn't end the way it ended, like there's no way this was going to end well.
I know, yeah. Every turn is like a mistake.
Every turn is just more damage, all leading to him.
So awesome, yeah. I definitely think this movie was inspired by After Hours by Scorsese. That's another nocturnal movie, another New York shit happens, keeps escalating kind of movie. Like I think we might do that movie at some point.
I really think this was inspired by Ed, Ed and Eddie and the cul-de-sac.
Yeah. It's one thing to be permanently brain damaged by acid by these people just from doing your job. It's a fucking extra fuck you that they decide to go hide out in his fucking apartment.
Which seems way too nice for a security guard.
Maybe he makes, I don't know.
Maybe he makes good money at the Adventureland.
At the shitty rundown small little theme park, yeah.
Yeah, maybe he slipped on pee-pee. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is like the interior design of his apartment fucking rules. I would love to have that kind of, it adds to the overall aesthetic of the film, and especially around the time that was like kind of popularized.
Yeah, repopularized. And it does visually feel like a safe space, like a lounge, but at the same time it's still decadent in its own right. Yeah, so I said that here's a nice apartment. I don't know if it's bigger than an average apartment though. I mean, it has a fairly decent sized living room, but it has, the standard kitchenette.
It's a high rise, so it's gonna be pricier.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. I don't know, man.
Yeah, but and there's a fucking nice dog.
Booze in
it. Yeah. Immediately goes to
immediately starts pounding.
It's like 6 a.m. and he starts pounding one liquor, dude, after all this shit. God damn.
It's a stressful night.
I know, but he's a fucking animal. But the light after the whole movie being nocturnal, now the light's starting to come in. It's like the morning. They've been up all night. The delirium and the exhaustion really starts to add to the delusion that Connie has because Ray tries to get real with him. And that's when we get the line where Connie's like, I am better than you, which really takes, I think, his character to the next level, that he just outright states that. And then to say that Ray serves no function really hammers home that everyone to him is just a tool to get to the next stage of whatever he's doing.
I
Even
also
his
think he
brother.
genuinely believes that he's helping his brother too, and that what he's doing
Yeah,
is
but even his
necessary
brother.
to help his brother. I think that's where his purpose lies. That's why he's trying so hard to get his brother back, because everything he's doing criminal wise is to support his brother.
But I also think he
initially,
just is slipping in the mentality.
Also,
and even just he sees an opportunity with the Sprite bottle and he's like, let's go get it. You know, I think he would have done that regardless.
he was, yeah, because he's probably also still upset that he didn't get all the money out of that bank robbery that he meant to. He had all these plans and things. I think he's still trying to plan to do all that shit. He's like, okay, I'm gonna get my brother out and then we're gonna go do this and escape the law. Like he's still, I think, delusional enough to think that he's gonna go live out in the woods with his brother or whatever. And for him to say to Ray to his face that he serves no function hammers home that idea that I think he thinks that he has cosmic importance, and that really, I don't know, it's interesting to me. Um, and then we get Khalif, who comes by and tries to offer him 3 G's, and Connie stupidly says, "No, I want 15," which is delusional. Of course, he sends him away, and that's another example of like he could have just settled. And but I guess, at least he learned from the bank robbery, because he's like, no, I want more. And then she goes back and shit happens. At least this time he doesn't stay around. He's like, no, something's up. And he, you know, dips out or whatever. But Khalif is also just like a very realistic character. Not even a New York character, just similar to certain people I've met over the years, and it's just kind of humorous.
The guy who plays him is a rapper named Necro.
Yeah, I looked into him.
Which is a juggalo rapper if I've ever heard one. Yeah, he's a horrorcore rapper. I knew it.
Yeah, the fact that he's asking for 15 G's means like he wants the 10 to get his brother out, even though that wouldn't happen anyway now because the cops have like showed up to the hospital, locked everything down, and then he wanted an extra 5, I guess, to get him and his brother out. It's not like he could show up to the, yeah, like he knows he passed the hospital, so he knows for sure that shit's going down. There's like 20 police cars, so at this point,
wants the money.
It's just pure delusion.
He doesn't even know what he wants it for.
It's like madness. Yeah, exactly. He just wants a win.
It's like Eddie with the Jawbreakers.
Shut the fuck up.
Why does he need one?
It's like full descent into madness at this point. And I like that when the cops do chase him, it's done from an overhead angle. It's like more zigzagging and stuff. And I like the zoom on the Sprite as it flies out of his hands and stuff. And of course, Ray's drunk ass tries to climb out of the window, which is a very brutal fucking death. And it's like, yeah, he would have gone back to jail regardless, but he wouldn't have died unless he interacted with Connie. So I think, like I said, Connie just is a path of misery, dude. And I guess the most interesting part is that when he's first being booked and he's arrested and he's being taken to the car, his eyes still show that he thinks he's still in charge of what's happening. But then it continues. And then he gets into the cop car. And then he sits there and then it lingers on him and his expression changes a bit. But I think it still feels ambiguous as to what he's really feeling at the moment. Does he finally feel remorse for anything? Or is he more far gone than ever? And is he able to rationalize that he's ruined a lot of people's lives? What do you think?
Do you guys think he might be relieved that he got caught?
I actually think relief was part of it. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
That his nervous system is almost starting to calm down. He's like, well, I don't have to be so crazy and on edge. But I still think you can still see him cogitating. Yeah. The gears are turning. It's a great shot and a great.
I know. I think it's multiple things, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so fascinating.
This is such a self-contradictory character. So yeah, there's part of him think like, well, maybe I could bullshit the judge. Maybe that's it. Maybe I could like get the DA to like me. Whatever's going through his mind.
Yeah.
But he I don't think he's changed. I don't think he learns his lesson by the end of this movie.
No.
I think his arc is just more an arc downward. It's not a character change. Versus Nikki's arc when we see him back at the clinic or hospital, wherever he is.
Where he's like actually medicated and being given the therapy he needs.
That's the thing is, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, they should have just cut to credits after that Connie got caught. No, that's stupid. The ending with his brother is very important, and it really ties everything together because
how important is it?
Well, it's just like he's back with his psychiatrist, and obviously psychiatrist does care about him, and he takes him to that special needs class, and he feels alone and confused, probably doesn't fully understand what's going on with his brother. I'm not sure how much he can comprehend of that. But I do think the importance of what's going on is to show that perhaps without his brother there to tell him otherwise, he'll finally be able to benefit and heal a little bit with these classes and these interactions and stuff, because at first he doesn't want to participate, and then slowly but surely he starts to move and do what they're doing. And I think that is just a small enough of a budge to show that it's going to be good for him. And I think his brother just does not, despite caring for him that much, does not need to be in his life, because he had him twisted, because he's back with his grandma again. Obviously, without Connie there to tell him that his grandma's a bitch or whatever, he's able to just be there, and he seems all right. So I don't know.
No, for sure.
Well, isn't the first, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the first, so at the end, they're the social workers playing a game called Walk Across the Room, and it's walk across the room if you've ever blah, blah, blah. And doesn't Nikki walk across the room for the first time when she says something like, walk across the room if you've ever been mad at a family member or something like that?
It's like that, or like if a family member's ever hurt you.
Yeah, something like that. And then even that's ambiguous, because now is Nikki, when he does that, is he thinking about his grandmother or is he thinking about Connie?
I think it's definitely Connie in my eyes.
I would like to think it's Connie.
Yeah. So, which is also like, after all of this that Connie went through trying to get his brother and take him away to the fucking woods or whatever adventure that he was trying to take him on, it's like it was all for nothing, and it should have been all for nothing anyway, because he's better off without Connie. So it's kind of a brutal ending.
Justice prevails. Cops are good.
Okay, that's what Scott took away from Good Time. What did you guys think of Good Time? Let us know in the comments below. It's one of the most, it's not completely underrated, but it is underseen by, I'd say, a lot of folks. And I can see why it'd be too stressful for some, especially if you didn't like Uncut Gems. You might skip this one. But this is my top 5 of the 2010s. That's how much I love this movie, and that's how much it influenced me. Love this movie. We don't give ratings on here, but this is pure uncut Kino. I love this movie so much.
6 out of 10.
Okay. We're going to strike that from the record. Casher has no bearing on what's Kino on the show anymore. We're going to strike. Yeah, he's going to be sent to plebeian hell. All right. Any other thoughts on Good Time?
Write in the comments if you want me to kill myself or not.
Okay. The comments, Casher's life is in your hands.
So if I'm here next week, it's because of you guys.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you guys next week.